What's going on, guys? Billy here, and today I'll be sharing with you everything that I bring with me inside of my bag when I go to fly my DJI Mavic Pro. Now this also doubles as my everyday bag, so I essentially bring the Mavic with me everywhere that I go, and my reasoning behind this is because I'm always faced with a situation where I see a cool sunset or a cool building and I say, wow, I wish I had my drone to film this or to take a photo of it. Now I can never make the excuse again, as I've always got the Mavic tucked away in the bottom of my bag, and it really is the perfect size. Once you fold it all up, I barely even notice it's there. So yeah, that's about it. Let's get into it. First things first, the bag that I use to carry all of my gear. This is the 20-liter everyday bag from Peak Design that is primarily built to hold camera gear, so in my case, for carrying the Mavic, it's just perfect. Now, doing a quick overview of this bag, we have 3 separate ways to access the full compartment. We've got 2 zippers on the side and then 1 clip at the top to access your bigger compartment. These little dividers are put in by Velcro, so you can change them as you need to when you put in different gear. We also have smaller compartments on each side that can hold some smaller things like cords, batteries, etc., etc. Finally, in the back, there's space for up to a 15-inch laptop and a tablet. I could be here for a while going over the ins and outs of this backpack, but again, I'd be here forever. Overall, I would highly recommend it because it is by far the best backpack that I've ever owned. Now getting to the fun part, the gear inside of my bag. First up is of course the DJI Mavic Pro, along with the remote controller and 3 extra batteries, so 4 in total. Now 4 might be a little overkill, but I would much rather have more battery power than I actually need. Along with the Mavic, I also have the Polar Pro Cinema Series filters, which include an ND8, ND16, ND32, ND4 polarizer, ND8 polarizer, and an ND16 polarizer filter. It's always good to carry around different filters because unlike the Phantom 4 Pro, the Mavic does not have an adjustable aperture, so you'll need to rely on the filters a lot more to control the shutter speed. Moving on to some of my other gear, in the top compartment I keep my Panasonic G7, which is what I'm shooting this video on right now, and it's honestly one of the least expensive 4K cameras that you can buy on the market, or I guess 4K DSLRs that you can buy on the market. It's typically $800, but I've seen it on sale for $500 this holiday season, which I'm not sure if that's still going on, but if it is, and you're looking for a camera, you should definitely take advantage of that because 4K for $500 in a DSLR is honestly a really good price. I also like to keep some extra batteries on me. I think that this is a necessity for any camera, and I actually picked up 2 batteries for I think $27 on Amazon, opposed to like $50 for one single Lumix battery. So I'll throw a link down to that in the description, and I'm also going to throw links to everything in this video, so if you guys are interested in anything, be sure to check the description. Now, to store all of this footage, I use the Sandisk Extreme Plus cards, both regular SD and micro SD, and to hold them, I use this Pelican case, which is a lifesaver because when dealing with a lot of these little cards, it makes it really easy to keep track of them. Going a little more in depth on these cards, they have a U3 rating, so they are more than capable of recording 4K footage and shooting raw photos, and I opted to go with multiple 64 gig cards rather than going with one big 128 gig card, just for convenience, so if I'm bringing my Mavic and my Phantom 4 Pro with me, I have a card for each drone. Next up is something that basically gets featured in every one of my gear tour videos, and that is the Anker PowerCore 26800, which is a huge battery bank that has 3 USB outputs and 2 micro USB inputs. I usually throw this in my bag and don't have to worry about charging it for like weeks on end, and aside from my phone and iPad, this also comes in handy with the Mavic Pro's remote because it doesn't have a huge battery like the Phantom's remote, and having your controller die mid-flight is probably one of the worst things that can happen. The final thing that I keep in this top compartment is a set of lacy rugged mini drives, one of which is 1 terabyte and the other is 2 terabytes. This is basically an essential for anyone that is on the go and needs to store a lot of footage because you don't have to baby it like other hard drives. It's built for a rugged lifestyle and can withstand the everyday drops. I'm always throwing these in my bag along with some of the other bulky things that I mentioned in this video, and it fits just fine. They might be expensive but are extremely reliable. One of the worst things that can happen to you is losing all of your footage. I know it's happened to me. I'm kind of talking from experience. I think that I would much rather lose a whole computer and keep the footage rather than lose all the footage and keep the computer, just because that's usually how important that footage is to me. I mean, it's basically like memories you're creating or memories you're kind of storing in picture form, and you're just losing all of them. So at the end of the day, I would rather spend a little bit more money on a more reliable drive rather than going and spending a little less money and have a higher risk of losing all of that footage. Another thing I really like to use these lacy drives for is to edit off of when I'm on the go, just so I don't fill up all the space on my hard drive on my computer. Moving to the back laptop compartment, I've got my new 15-inch MacBook Pro, fully spec'd out, which is something that I've had my eyes on for a long time now, and I finally decided to pull the trigger, which certainly put a hurt on my wallet, but this thing does not skip a beat when editing photos and video, which is my primary line of work. Now, even though it's a bit bulky, I always like to bring my laptop with me wherever I go, so I can edit pictures, videos, and even do schoolwork if I have to, and not be limited. I know that tablets are good for editing on the go, but I always feel so restricted with what the mobile applications can do, so I suck it up and carry around the extra weight so I can get the most power possible. In this back laptop sleeve, I've also got an iPad mini 4 that I strictly use for flying. For the longest time, I actually just used to use my phone, which worked perfectly, but once you start using a bigger screen, you'll never want to go back. If you're looking for a tablet, I definitely recommend going with one that at least runs iOS, because the Dji Go app runs much better on Apple software and also gets a lot of features first. Other than this, the Crystal Sky monitor is probably a good go-to tablet, but I haven't gotten a chance to actually try it out yet. So those are basically all of the big items that I bring with me when I go and fly my DJI Mavic Pro, but I also have a couple of smaller things that I think sort of deserve a shout out. So for example, I've got the Moment smartphone lenses that easily tuck into the small side pocket of my bag. I've also got this little small USB power brick, so if I need to plug into the wall, I can easily charge 2 USB devices at once. And speaking of charging, I have a bunch of different cords like micro USB cables, lightning cables, USB-C cables, and of course, dongles for the new MacBook Pro. And finally, I have a small Verizon Hotspot, which I got a while ago to use my laptop on the go rather than connecting to public wireless networks. And just recently, I've actually been turning it on when I fly using my iPad mini so that I can see if there's any updates for my drone, and also so that the maps will update in the background to wherever I'm at. The Dji Go app always seems to work better when connected to the internet, and if you really need to, you could always use the hotspot that's built into your phone. Now, I figured I'd add the DJI goggles in here because I do bring them with me when I can, but in sort of an unconventional way. So the Peak Design backpack actually allows you to strap things to the outside, so I use this to suspend the goggles on my back. And again, this isn't like an every time thing when I go to fly my Mavic, but if I'm looking to get that FPV experience, this is how I bring them with me. With everything fit inside of my bag, this is what it looks like from the side. So you can see that the dividers actually allow me to keep the Mavic at the bottom, and then the remote and batteries in the middle, and finally all of my extra pieces of gear at the top. If I need to access the Mavic, I can just go through the side compartment, which gives me access, but if I need to grab, let's say, a hard drive, then I can do so through the buckle at the top. So yeah, those are basically all of the things that I bring with me when I go out and fly my DJI Mavic Pro. I bring a lot of extra gear with me, so this is essentially like a mobile workstation on my back. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you're interested in any of the gear, I'll throw links down in the description for you. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.